Mr. Peter Kimbowa, famously known as PK. There's only one PK in Uganda. Yes, and that is Peter Kimbowa. Thank you very much for agreeing to have a conversation with me. This time of the year is particularly important for people who listen to my conversations because they are trying to figure out how to improve their lives in the coming year. The famous doing New Year resolutions. One of the things that is central to people's resolutions and trying to do better is financial independence, trying to manage their money better, trying to improve their financial income, and so on. So, which is why I came looking for you to say, I need to find someone who can talk to these people on how you prepare for how you can take advantage of the new year to start a new financial life. Before we dive deep into the techniques of that, at what point and how did you arrive at this subject of finances, of leadership, of coaching generally? Why did you think it was important to provide this wisdom? At what point did you get, or as we say, did you set out on the road to Damascus? And when did you get the revelation? Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Thanks very much, Robert. First of all, I'm very humbled to be here in this conversation.
Yes.
And I must say, I'm not speaking like an expert. I'm using only what you call common sense experiences.
True.
My background, Robert, is when I left school, I worked in Nairobi in the government of Kenya. Then I came back here and worked also for the government of Uganda.
Yes.
Back then, we loved traveling. The government was new here. Everything was running up and down, going to IMF, World Bank, and attending meetings and conferences abroad.
Yes.
So it was a very interesting time, and we would have large suitcases of things because there were no supermarkets here.
True.
There was nothing at all. So it was such a wonderful thing to call a friend, tell him I'm dashing to the airport and so on. I've just come back. That kind of crazy time. Then
it was prestigious to be traveling.
Wonderful,
yes.
And then returning with those daily suitcases with a lot of things, including toothpicks and so on.
Actually, not even toothpicks, toothpaste.
Yeah,
at that time, toothpaste was not even available. Yes.
So then I was seconded to the United Nations for about 6 years. And when I came back here, I was in transition because I was supposed to be doing another World Bank project, which was on short-term basis. We visited a man called Martin Orech, who was the
He was permanent secretary, Minister of Public Service. Yes.
And they were doing a project which had started much earlier on, which was they called the retrenchment, which was in itself a very bad word. They called the retrenchment process between 1993 to almost 2000. But I remember visiting him in 2001. And they asked him, he said the numbers were the entire civil service force had 360,000 civil servants.
Yes.
And the development partners had advised that they reduce this number to 200,000. So about 160,000 civil servants were requested to go home. Wow. Now, the research then done by the National Research and Research Users Network in Kimbowa had the figures that showed that 36 to 37% of those guys asked to retire died within the first 5 years.
Really?
Within the first 5 years of retirement, and then about another 40 or so percent had no job to go to.
So 37% of people who are let go from the civil service
passed on within the next 5 years of going on. And the reasons were many. One of them was household finance.
Right.
And that reminded me of a gentleman who was the vice president of the World Bank, the vice president of World Bank in Africa, called Marcelo Gaigare. Marcelo Gaigare wrote about poverty eradication. And he said that countries like Uganda in sub-Saharan Africa were developing a new class of people called the new poor.
Wow.
The new poor were people who had worked in good environments, senior civil servants. They had held very good jobs.
Yes.
And now they had gone back retire into penury, no money, no household income.
Actually, the most interesting story was told to me by a man in Mbarara. And he said he used to work in UEB, Uganda Electricity Board. And he said his managers had a huge house in Kololo with a compound.
Right.
UEB paid for a car,
Yes.
paid for a guard,
Yes.
paid for house help, paid for compound maintenance.
Right.
And when the guy retired,
Yes.
they gave him a refrigerator as a gift,
Yes.
and he was nothing.
Yes.
And
So-
he said by the time you met him
Yeah.
3 years later, he was in the same suit he wore to the farewell
Yes.
and the belt, but this time the belt he had to put 3 extra holes.
Yes, absolutely. Actually, the worst came. I will just give you a quick example. A guy who was staying in Kololo, in Bugolobi, now goes home. Now goes home in Bugolobi. That's his real home.
Yes.
And now, because when he was a senior civil servant,
Yes.
he had to pay for his children in university, and they have now come back and they are jobless.
Yes.
And the wife has been a housewife all the time.
Yes.
Now, a house which had 12 bulbs now has 2. One bulb in the corridor, another one on the veranda.
Wow.
Now, a house must have, according to the UN, about 6 taps. Now, there was only 1 tap, which is outside the house. So they have to get water from outside
And bring it into the house.
The fridge is out of commission. It's a very large fridge.
It's a box,
Yeah,
basically.
but it's out of commission. The cooker is also out of commission. The chairs are sagging, they are old, and the man has 10 suits, as you said, but they are all in a state of disrepair. He has a phone, he has no mobile, there's nothing, no data.
He had no phone actually at that time.
And then you find that the vehicle is there, it's a bit old,
Yeah.
and he has no fuel. You see, and the tires are all worn out. So it was a very shocking and horrifying experience to see senior guys whom you used to attend meetings with, conferences with, and they are really declining in a state of isolation, in a state of depression, and for those who were in denial, passed on. So, as a Rotarian, because my background is in Rotary, I said, no, let's see and create a platform for awareness creation. So the British government then supported my awareness creation programs, both in the government and private sector. The corporate world was just waking up then to the realization that household incomes have to be built right from a young age.
When you start
Yes,
work.
And when you start work, you also prepare for exit. So you don't develop an opinion. When you get work, prepare for exit.
I know you say that, but part of the problem was that we had this consumerist culture.
Yes.
We had this consumerist culture.
Yes.
When we recovered,
Yes.
suddenly there was instant gratification.
Yes.
People decided it's time to enjoy.
Yes.
And so there is no time to think about the future. But
Yes.
that brings me to an issue that you spoke about in the video that led us here. You talked about the scarcity mentality
Yes.
and how that has fed into the consumerism that we see today.
Right.
Explain, and the best example you gave was the weddings. So
Yes.
do you want to talk me through that? I mean,
Yes.
how that has led to people failing to start from the day they arrive at work to be frugal and save for the future.
Thanks, Robert. First of all, Robert, we need to look at the reality of our situation in Uganda.
Yes.
When the government, NRM, came into power, the situation we had in Kampala was a situation of absolute poverty. And there was a lot of tension in homes and everywhere because there were no means of people earning anything honestly at that point.
That's true.
When they came. So when they came, they brought electricity, the
Yes.
NRM people. They brought some degree of construction, some degree of economic stability and recovery.
And even activity.
And also a sense of pride. Now, for majority of us in our generation,
Yeah.
we had just grown up into scarcity. customized. So now here we are. Supermarkets have started. Now it's possible to build in Intinda, possible to build in Kololo, Naguru. Some of the places here were near town, but really villages.
They were villages.
So people,
Naguru was Naguru, where there is NBS television and Sky Hotel, was a shrine.
Absolutely. So we had what they call Kampala, the city of 7 hills. Now it's Kampala, the city of 20 hills.
Almost 30 years.
Or 30. Now, there is something in our kind of work which we call generational kinetics. Generational kinetics means that each generation has its own mission and it has its own priorities and control and momentum.
True.
So the children we gave birth to, that was in the early 90s. Now, these are the guys who are the suffering road as a result of financial literacy. Why? Because for us, we are keen on now building ourselves into abundance mentality. So we grew up in houses that were 2 bedroom,
Yes.
1 bedroom. Now we are in Kololo.
With about 6 bedrooms.
Yes.
Each bedroom has its own bathroom.
Yes.
And entertainment facilities.
Absolutely. So we now have abundance.
Yes.
We grew up when the vehicles were few.
Yes.
Right now, there are bones all over.
Yeah.
So a home has about 6 vehicles.
Yes.
When you are in Muyenga,
Yes.
and all these places, Bugolobi.
Yes.
Now, the generation which has all those things are the ones who grew up
Who were born in the 90s.
mindset,
Yes.
who now started giving children in the 90s. Now, the beneficiaries now, who are now getting married, are
Yes.
our children,
Yes.
who now have just seen abundance.
Plenty.
Now, that has led us to tweak our cultural norms very unfairly. And what has happened is parents enjoy seeing abundance,
expressions of opulence.
because they suffered.
Now, when they see
Sort of opulence.
Opulence.
And so we have a
and
situation
not,
where
not just that, also a number of the parents that you're talking about
yes,
not all of them grew up in urban scarcity.
Yeah.
Some of these came straight from an even poorer rural background.
Absolutely.
And then suddenly you have all of this plenty.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And there was no training, there was no preparation.
No.
The government from President Museveni never prepared anyone for abundance.
No.
So people just shifted from a scarcity mindset straight into abundance. And that caused the cultural shock. The cultural shock manifests itself in the way, the way we celebrate, especially. But by the way, even the way we mourn. And explain, because there is again that is so the way we celebrate.
I'm laughing.
This is what has happened is an introduction ceremony. I will give you the example of Uganda where I come from.
Yes.
An introduction ceremony.
That was an interesting story. Yeah, but go on. Yeah.
Typically involves few people. In Uganda, they call it a chama. A chama means this is a message being delivered in confidence. This is my future spouse. I am introducing you in confidence.
Is that correct?
That's what it is. It is chama. So right now, all that has been turned upside down. Why? Because we parents are too eager to show opulence and the fact that we now have a few things. Now, unlike unless our friends
unlike our friends in Kenya.
Our friends in Kenya, they didn't turn this age-old tradition of introduction. So for them, and again, pretty much the people in Asia, they left the sanctity of these norms and traditional culture intact, and they looked at the introduction ceremony. That what exactly is meant by this? We want to celebrate the future because these two young people are representing the future. We need to honor the past, but we need to preserve the future. So this conversation, which is private, was so intimate. It will be about what level of investment is this groom to be? What about our bride? Will the bride be?
Where is she going?
And so, where is she going? What is the stability of work and so on? So all of that was lost in what? In the pomp. You have large tents. You have over 100 second-hand vehicles lined up. I remember very well that in the 2000s or so, that's when you have a convoy of all second-hand vehicles, all the bonds in Kampala. You will find a bond, a whole bond. They're donating blankets, donating bed sheets. Now, these things are not necessary. What we have to do at introduction ceremony, in order to preserve the future, but honor the past, is we need to know your lineage, which family you come from. We need to have introduction, but we need to go economics. We need to discuss finances. Why? Because that's the future. We have do two things: honor the past, preserve the future.
Let me take you back. Actually, what you're suggesting is not even new. There's nothing, you're just asking us to go back to past practice. I remember being told by my father in law that I was lucky. I said, why? He said, because in his days, for you to go, one of the first things they asked for was graduated tax ticket for 5 years.
Absolutely.
Now, our guys who are listening don't know about graduated tax ticket. But people of our generation and older, the fact that you are a male adult, just the fact of being a male adult in Uganda, you were required to pay a tax.
Yes.
And it was called graduated tax. I guess it was because you are graduated towards being employed. But so then you paid that tax after the first 4 months of the year. So the assumption is you have found work and you can now pay.
Right.
Now, the reason they asked for that thing was to see whether our daughter is going to be married to a person who is gainfully and has sustained the tradition of paying tax for 5 years.
Yes, decent level, absolutely. Decent level. So today, I think what we do, like in my clan, for us, we have gone back to that. We don't expect more than 7 people when you come for introduction, and the questions are already set.
By the way, that, sorry to cut you short, but I just want to tell you that is also the tradition of people from Western Uganda.
Right. I know that. My relatives are married there.
Yes, you were required to come with 7 people.
Yes.
Only when you come to propose. Now the party was when you come back to the bride's place and we are saying farewell to the bride, but we're also celebrating new wealth because you have brought cows.
Yes.
Yes.
What happens is the economics around this is number one. Actually, it starts much earlier at graduation. A graduation party is not a party for drinking and eating. Right now in the clan, we come with money. So we collect money. And you've just finished school. We don't quite give a damn whether you already got a job or not.
Yes.
But we come with money. So when you bring this money, we give it to you. Let's say $10,000. That's about 40 million. So we give it to you, but you don't touch it. Because within the family, there are fund managers. So we hand this money to a fund manager, and we tell the fund manager, you have to ensure that this person, within 2 years, he has a job in order to supplement our. So he's not supposed to touch it until he's 45. And if he has a wife, he has to withdraw 20% of it with his wife present. Otherwise, this money must be withdrawn at age 60. Now, if I give you $10,000 at age 22 as a graduate in Makerere, that money, whichever economic condition you are looking at in the world, that money will be $1 million at age 60.
So,
$1 million.
So what you're saying,
Yes.
what you're suggesting to us is that instead of having these massive celebrations of a young person's accomplishment, like school, he hasn't yet had any job, it would be wiser to collect that money, because some of these parties have actually fundraised. Collect that money instead of having it in one meal that night and taking it to the toilet there and then. You start up a savings scheme.
And a saving culture. You strengthen it now.
Right.
Because it's a wonderful experience, and I've seen it in our family. A wonderful experience for the guy to be there. You are celebrating his graduation, and you can see you brought 40 million, and he's not touching it. And it goes straight into a fund. And the fund manager keeps updating this guy on how his money is doing. Now, the one who may be lucky to have a job, a number of others to get jobs, is to save at least 500 or 550,000 a month, or 500, because by age 35,
you see, PK, every which way you look at it, I mean, yours is the high end, where you say $10,000, which is about 30 million. But even if
it's $1,000,
even if it's 1 million shillings, let's put it at 1 million shillings.
It still brings the culture, the mindset that one wants, the culture of frugality, the culture of delaying gratification. That's the culture that we want from an early stage. Now, I know parents here in Uganda, but it's very common in Kenya and among Asians, that that process starts earlier in P1. But the moment the kid joins P1, they create a small account for that kid. And the kid is asked to manage it. There is some money for joy, there is some money for God, there is also some money for the future. At age 6 or age 7, they start that. So it's an issue of mindset. The mindset creates a money personality. So by age 22, then when it comes to marriage, I will still tell you.
Yes.
The introduction ceremony, we really don't expect you to bring us gifts. No, these material things, blankets, chairs, fridges, and that kind of rubbish.
Do you know what is sad about this whole bringing gifts?
Yes.
Is that people not only borrow to
Yes.
buy those things,
Yes.
some of those things are taken out, are borrowed for the show and
Yes.
returned. I mean,
I've heard about that. Yes. And all of that is what? That we were never prepared for the abundant mindset. Because why have that inferiority complex?
why do you call it an inferiority
It's
complex?
inferiority complex because you are making up, you are hiding something which you know. That before 86, your parents were in poverty and lack. Now you are saying we have arrived. That's a deep-seated inferiority complex. We asked these people in introduction ceremony that the standard rule is one. You have a job in MTN as an engineer. Can you show us also 80% of your source of income outside your salary? Because that is a standard requirement of a man called a man. The one you talked about who must have a graduated tax
Ticket.
because that's what shows you are a man.
Yes.
Who can take control.
And
So
be responsible for other human beings.
now, for you to be considered a man who has control over yourself, you must be having a side hustle, which generates at least 80% of your monthly income. You must be belonging to an investment club or a circle. You must have an income generating asset that you can talk to us about. And we require a title. If you already have the property, it must be in the names of yourself and our daughter. Now, if you have just a title, the title, you show us the plan. When are you constructing? How long is it going to take you? Who is designing the building? When do you finish? Why that kind of building? This is the conversation we build at introduction. It's about the future. Do you belong to a fund or you don't? Did your grandfather leave a fund or anything like that? So we know you are first generation wealth creation. And if for us we have put our daughter in a fund, we will tell you.
So you say something very interesting related to that. There are two things, but I'll go straight to that one. You say the day you get married, you should prepare for divorce.
Absolutely.
And also, we'll come back to another one where you say the day you get employed is the day you prepare for. What do you mean by preparing for divorce? If you're talking to, let's say, your daughter or our daughter.
Well, first of all, I will tell you, Robert, it's very good that you're asking this question. I have written a book. It's called In Deep Conversation.
Right.
This book, In Deep Conversation, has 100 questions which everyone who is about to commit should ask the spouse. They should ask each other. During the process of dating, these 100 questions, probably more, should be covered. And these questions are all about what if, supposing. They are all about scenario planning, especially around money investment. First of all, earning, saving, debt management, and investment. They are all around there. Supposing we buy this plot together and something happens.
Because it's human to disagree.
Supposing I die, what about the children? How many are we going to have? And where will they go to school? What are the arrangements for them to get to those schools? And so this in a deep conversation, we now ask our relatives when they are getting back, have you read this book? Because there are 100 questions, and there are 100 questions you could improve on them. So that is bringing us closer to your question. On the day you get married is the day you plan it. The best way to plan for divorce is to avoid it. So what is it that can bring us to the brink of divorce? You start avoiding. In disaster management cycles, they call it anticipation, prevention. So, and then you start to think, what is it that can bring us to the age? What can bring any marriage to the age is money. So we started this conversation while we are dating. Then when we get married, we spend 7 hours every week discussing 5 areas. How are we earning the money? How are we going to spend it? How are we going to save it? How are we going to manage debt? How are we going to invest long term? 7 hours a week.
Related to, to that, I mean, people ask me always,
Yes.
how should couples
Yes.
approach financial issues? And the interesting one, should we have a joint account? Should I disclose everything about money to my wife? Or
Yes.
just talk to us about that. I mean, what?
I will tell you something.
Yes.
You see, we like confusing ourselves. And one of the things that we need to look at when we are discussing money is to stop telling ourselves lies. And we face the truth head on. One is when you are dating, you are supposed to have gone through those 100 questions. And those 100 questions are about, say, my daughter's kid, the spouse to be, whether this person has debt, why he incurred them, and how he's paying, and in which bank. Whether you yourself you have debt. Because this is opening up. This is the whole idea of honesty and trust. Because especially men, they like cheating themselves. Like, I don't want to commit myself totally to this lady. I negate another one, and that kind of rubbish. You see, the human body starts decaying at age 18. So when you are a man, by the time you reach age 40, your claim to handsomeness,
You have
and
declaimed.
your attractive quotient is gone down. So you better realize that here now you are committing yourself to this lady. You have 80% strength and 20% areas of improvement.
Yes.
Even your spouse is the same.
Exactly.
So even if you confuse yourself and say, I may get an alternative, don't be silly. Even the alternative you are getting has 80%, 20%. So the best thing is from the word go, open up. How many divorces do you see among Indians? Well, some of the wealthiest people, even Japanese. And so there are rules that govern the internal conduct and behavior of people who are married or preparing to marry. There are rules. So when they say that you are free, freedom doesn't mean being disorderly. There has to be some order and a cultural order. And so I think
The young people think use the word boundaries.
Yes.
You have to have boundaries that govern that freedom.
They have to have boundaries that govern. In fact, that is the hallmark of civilization.
Yes.
Civilization brings restraint to us. So, and you create a difference with wild animals because we can restrain ourselves and manage our appetite and our instructions.
So you talk about, you said a broke guy is a
Is a moving corpse.
corpse.
Yes. What is that?
What's the notion?
The notion is most men look at their masculinity from the point of view of having handed money. When
Liquid
COVID,
cash.
When the COVID was announced and there was a lockdown,
Yes.
most people, most households in Uganda, according to EPRC,
Yes.
Economic Policy and Research Center,
Yeah.
75% of the households in Uganda were at least prepared to actually manage the domestic chores for the next 3 months. The amount of savings the households in Uganda had, 75% of them could not last them 3 months. So that undermines what you would call masculinity. Because most men consider
They
money-
defined themselves on their money.
Exactly. So when a
Their whole
person-
identity was tied in with having cash.
Exactly. So when someone is broke, what happens is he is emotionally unhinged. He gets emotionally unstable, and he kind of wears out intellectually. He becomes fatigued physically.
And starts to engage in self-destructing behavior.
Exactly, denial. He goes into desperate dreaming, and so becomes a bitter guy. Now, when somebody is not present in the home, he's already died. He could be there physically, but he's gone. What? The mind is not there.
It has exited
He has
this.
exactly. He has exited the world. That's what I mean. It's a metaphorical reference, which means only one thing, that from a very early age, we must build control and of our priorities. We must build courage of our convictions, that I'm not going to build a 6-bedroom house because so and so has built it. I'm going to manage it. This is courage of conviction. Then you control your priorities. Then you commit to discipline. You commit to discipline, self-control, and make a connection to your future.
How do I, if I'm thinking of 2025,
Yes.
what's the journey to establishing my own priorities as Robert? And how do I avoid being influenced by, let's say, PK, who is fairly successful and lives? In other words, I think the old phrase is keeping up with the Joneses.
Yes.
How can I come back to myself in this context
In
of
this
ours?
context, thanks very much, Robert. First of all, I don't quite subscribe to New Year resolutions myself,
Fair enough.
because I consider life to be continuous.
Correct.
Part of continuous. So at the end of the year,
Okay, let's say somebody feels the need to make a change.
very good.
Yes.
Towards the end of the year, as you put it, someone wants to make a change. There are 3 questions. Towards the end of the year, you and your spouse, or if you don't have a spouse, your close friend, whoever you have, there are 3 things. They are all 3. The first set of 3s, can we review what has gone well, what hasn't gone well? How did we increase our sources of income? Are we earning multiple sources of income? Have we invested well? Yeah or not? What kind of failure have we? What are we missing? What is our next opportunity? That's in the area of review. Then it is refreshing. Refreshing is, what new knowledge centers do I have to go to in order to improve my prospects in 2025? The third one is realigning now your priorities. You realign. So those are 3. Let me go to the next set of 3. The next set of 3 is the question to ask yourself in this review: are you happy with your life right now?
As it is.
Yes, as it is right now in 2024. Are you happy or not? And you may not even be able to answer the question. You may need someone like a spouse to help you. To answer the question. Being happy with yourself means that, do you have insurance, especially medical insurance? Whatever. What if certain things happen and you go to school?
As they say, most people in Uganda are one chronic illness away from absolute poverty.
Absolutely. Are you okay? What are your vulnerabilities right now? What are your strengths? So are you okay? The second one is, if you are not okay, even if you are okay, the second question will be, what is it you need to stop doing?
Yes.
What is it you need to start doing? There are some things you are doing well. What do you need to scale? Like you yourself, Robert, you are doing very well in the coffee industry. And the coffee industry, in spite of headwinds or whatever it's going through,
it can only grow.
It can only grow.
Yeah.
So what is it you can scale? Then 4 is, what support do you need? So this is from, are you happy with yourself? Are you happy with your situation? The second one is that. And you ask those questions in light of your future. What kind of future would you want? Robert, can you take me through, when you are age 80, what kind of life do you want?
How do you see yourself?
And if you see yourself that way, what do you need to stop?
In other words, what do you need to start doing now to arrive at
that age
80?
The kind of 80 you want. You still want your children to look after you? You remember generational kinetics? Your children, especially we people, the children are not going to look after you. Even our own children, their children are not going to look after them.
I think we are the last generation.
Yes, we are the last one.
Of children who looked after their parents.
Absolutely. So right now, it's Christmas time, vehicles are going to move in all directions from Kampala. By 23rd evening, Kampala will have no one.
Leave alone no one. The roads will be impossible.
Exactly. So that is what all the generation kinetic. Many parents are not even aware that the children want them home, not jumping around going to the villages, taking sugar, water, and so on. So at age 80,
and going to show off that we have arrived.
exactly. So at age 80, what life do you want to see? And if that's the life you want to see, what do you need to start to stop doing now? What do you need to start doing going forward? And what kind of assistance will you need? How many, right now we have technology, how many platforms that have to do with money and investments do you follow every week? What are you learning?
And you say this money thing, not from a point of view of money as an end in itself, but as a means to a certain thing you want.
That's why I said, what can you describe for me the Robert Kapshenga we see at age 80 and how Robert Kapshenga is spending his day at age 80?
And so the priorities become Robert Kapshenga at 80 will not have the energy to work.
Yes, that's number one.
Robert Kapshenga at the age of 80 is prone to chronic illnesses.
Absolutely.
Even if that is not the case, he will be frail and will need to be looked after.
Absolutely.
Where does he go? Does he go to a home or does he hire the labor?
Yes.
And you're saying to me, and I'd like you to expound on this, that you don't deal with that issue at age 74.
No. You deal with the issue as early as possible. You deal with the issue as early as possible.
Yeah.
I'll give you an example which I saw in NSSF. Right now in NSSF, most of these guys who are supposed to be drawing their benefits at age 55 are not doing so. There have been quite a robust program of financial literacy in NSSF.
Oh, yeah.
People are keeping the money behind. They are leaving it there.
Yes.
Right now, I hope you have heard of this.
The
voluntary pay. People are going into that now.
And actually, when I give talks to communities, I tell them, one, don't leave your NSSF money alone.
Yes.
Number two, please go and seek advice from NSSF. It is free.
Yes, which is free. First of all, it's free in this sense that in the world of money and investment, there are about 6 areas which are key. You need information.
True.
That's number one. Then you need to study the trends around money.
Yes.
Then the implications of those trends.
Yes.
And then you need to understand exactly what decisions you take now and what are the risks of each decision and how will you fit it. So I think NSSF is doing that. NSSF has got, in my estimation, as a consultant, it has the highest concentration of intellectual power in that area.
Exactly.
Yes. So the advice is free.
It's free. It is
get
good
the best.
advice,
Yes.
which other people would have paid dollars for.
Absolutely. And that is good for your generation.
Yeah.
The other thing at the end of the year, which I would like to share with the people, especially the entrepreneurs who are on this call, who are listening, every business in East Africa at the end of the year is worried around 3 things.
Yes.
Adopting to inflation, how do we attract, develop and retain customers well, and more importantly, how do I monitor my expenses during this period? Why do you monitor expenses? In Uganda, the issues we have are black tax. That is the money people are going to pay, not to URA. They are paying this money to relatives and people who got lost, and many people. You go to the village now, you are going to pay multiple layers of taxes in the village. So black tax. The second one is what we call charity pornography. Charity pornography is to be seen giving and donating and so. A number of people need to be seen and heard. That's child pornography. The other one.
I like the phrase, charity pornography.
Yes.
Almost like a Pharisee in the Bible.
Yeah, exactly. So during this period, we need to remember that the money, and it's very easy to confuse the money for your children and their future with yours. So during this period now is to know what is the money you are entitled to. And remember, in the bedrooms of your children, they already have pictures on the wall of the universities where they are going to go. And they are warning you every day to prepare for the semester fees.
I know that now because I am living that life now.
Exactly.
I want to go back. You have spoken so well about black tax.
Yes.
And the statement you made, which really captured my attention, was stop giving your relatives money.
Yes, absolutely.
Please tell me about that.
They stop giving relatives money, and this goes to the question you asked yourself at the end of the year. If you didn't have the job or the station in society which you had, would these relatives have done? What would they be up to?
No, let's start with, would they come to you at all?
That's exactly. In fact, if you lost a job, and all these relatives of yours were there because you were a chief accountant in the post bank.
I was there before.
Yeah,
I've been down that road. So
exactly. So one of the most primitive things Ugandans do is they attach your importance and intellect and ability to do things on the position you have.
True.
Yet you went into that position with a personality, and you are still the same person who is going to be moving
probably
up,
even better.
and probably you even go to another bigger field. So, but Ugandans, they have a very primitive attitude towards that. So generally, I don't know whether it's a human nature kind of thing or not, but that's the way they are. So your relatives don't give them, but every year hold a clan meeting. And when you hold the clan meeting, go back to the 4 questions. Members of the clan, what do we need to stop? We have relatives who are jobless. What should we stop doing for these children when they are studying? And so, what should we start doing? What are those things good in the clan which we should leverage? What should we scale? And second, what support will these people need in terms of advice, in terms of not money? Because money has to be earned. And this is one thing we have failed from an early age.
Please,
children don't know how to earn.
Please explain.
Yes.
What do you mean that money has to be earned?
Money has to be earned.
Explain that, because some people think that the fact that I have a rich benefactor, I am earning. So explain, what do you mean
I
by
will
that?
explain from my own personal example, but I know many families have been like that. Growing up, my father had one of the largest sugar estates in Uganda, one of the largest,
Right.
if not the largest, of a private farmer. That is the largest. And I do recall from age 8, I think, or 10, my mom, just like the Indians, because I grew up with Indians myself. Yeah, my family was intimately linked to metals. So I grew up with Indians. I could see Indians, a kid of 7 years, selling in a shop and doing marketing action. You come to buy bread, the Indian makes sure you take more things. And he's age 7.
The most interesting thing they would tell you, the wife tells you, but also, Madam doesn't have matchbox.
Yes.
Madam doesn't have cooking oil.
Yes,
Madam.
so look at now, around Christmas time now, it will be like you pay later.
Yes.
So your contract will get paid.
Exactly.
Now, when I was growing up at age 8, I think, age 8, 9, I learned how to cut sugar cane.
Yes.
Very early, my mom would make sure everyone is out there by 5:30. We had the laborers who were from Rwanda, we had laborers from West Nile.
Yes.
And there used to be there many. My dad had a lorry, so they would bring them in the morning. By 6, we are singing. We are cutting sugar cane while singing with them. My mom did not care whether I was her kid or whatever. I was like all the other workers. In fact, I remember throughout that experience up to age 17, even when my dad died, we continued that. I remember during that period, I confronted 3 vipers, you call them
Puffaders, yes.
puffaders in the undergrowth of the sugarcane, and they were still asleep because for us we were very early, so I would leave them alone. But 3 puffaders I saw, and my mom would come to count. Each bundle has to have 5
Sugarcane.
They are put together 5, that's 1 bundle. You had to do 75, then you go home. So, and then my mom would say, now, things to go to school. Everything is based on what you have earned. So, you earn money through sacrifice, through pain, through self-control, through focus. That is what must be cultivated in our culture from a very early age. That money is not just brought about anyhow. mindset.
And we seem to have lost
Yes.
that culture.
We have to bring it back, and the parents, like now we are coming into holidays, and like I mentioned to you, Robert, each home must have at least 7 hours a week discussing those 5 topics. How should this family earn or bolster multiple sources of income? Then how does this home improve its spending pattern, including budgeting and so on? Number 3 is how do we have to save? We need to save. We need to save. There is money which must go into an investment club. There is money which must go to gold. There is money which must be in the emergency kit. There is money which goes into investment. So this conversation, again, is around the dinner table. But Ugandans who grew up in poverty and mindset scarcity, the guys who were around in the early 90s and the late 80s, who finally jumped into abundance. They have a house of 8 bedrooms or 6. The children eat dinner from their rooms. They are watching TV.
In their rooms.
Now, yes, the father may be at the dining table alone, and he's watching an iPad or TV or mobile money all at the same time. The wife is busy doing other things. No. Dinner time is sacrosanct. Phones must be switched off. Television must be switched off. Everything must be switched off. And you look at each other. So everyone must attend dinner. And during dinner is when you raise this question. A total of 7 hours a week. Minimum.
So if you are talking to a young family,
Yes.
by young I mean the newly not maybe
The
newly
parents
married.
get married
Okay,
or
say they're
married.
married.
Yeah.
Children are between 1 year and 5, 6, 7.
Yes.
They're sitting there. They've been at this, and maybe they've gone wayward.
Yes.
How can they start to change and come back in, I'm looking at 2025 now. How do they, you've given, because the description you've made of the dinner table, sacrosanct, those things, it also assumes a fairly mature and disciplined way of life. But a lot of young people are distracted by the active social life, the nightlife, and all of these things. How do you start early on in your married life to start to look at these sacrosanct issues that you talk about? How do we develop? How do we grow? How do we prepare for the future?
I will tell you something, Robert. Actually, it's kind of you start where you are and what you have.
With what you have, yes.
Yes, you start with what you have and where you are. And you don't make your life complicated. Because you are married, you must enjoy yourself.
True.
So, but there is I think coaches call it grow model.
Yeah.
So a family like this, you want it to grow.
Yes.
Now, the word grow has G, which means goals, R, which means reality of your situation, O, options, and W is the will to go forward.
Let's start
So
with the G.
we start with the G, which are the goals. I think a family, whether they are beginning to go wayward or whatever, the issue is why are they going wayward? I will tell you, I will bet my last quote, Robert. They are going like that because of money. There are already tensions around money. The man is quiet when he should be talking. What? He's broke. And like I told you, he is now getting into what you call grave silence. The silence of the grave. That's what he's developing now. Because he's broke, he can't talk. People who are dead don't talk. So the issue now is we need new goals for short term, mid term, and long term.
You know, I wanted to tell you a story. Somebody who has remained a close personal friend since it's like 25 years now. Very close. Man of great wisdom. I am sure you know him, but I will not disclose who it is.
Yes.
So, for some reason, I think I did not, I don't know why, but I didn't send him an invitation to my wedding.
Yes.
Well, I can't remember what the circumstances, but he meets me afterwards and he says, anyway, no, I sent him an invitation, but he couldn't come. So he asked me, why didn't you come to IMF? I said, what do you mean IMF? He said, when you get married, you come to the elders. We've been there before, we'll give you something. We laughed about it. He said, anyway, IMF I will still give you. But he told me one thing. He said, Robert, 3/4, if not 4/5 of all the marriages in Kampala that collapse, it is over money.
Yes.
And I asked him how and why. He told me two things that I have lived by successfully. He said, if you do those two things, there will never be a quarrel in your family. I said, what is it? He said, first of all, pay your children's school fees a year in advance. He said, because the most humiliating thing is for your wife to go and plead with the headmaster.
Yes, yes.
When the wives of others less able have paid and they are looking at her begging the headmaster, or your children are sent back home. I said, okay, I get that. I said, secondly, agree with her. How much money does she need to run the home? And increase it by a factor of 20%.
Yes.
And give it to her and keep quiet.
That's right.
And don't ask, don't say anything.
Yes, excellent advice. Yes.
It's amazing.
Yes.
We have never, 25 years,
Yes.
been married with my wife, we've never quarreled. Certainly not over money.
Absolutely.
We may have argued over small
Yeah,
money.
but those ones you cure quickly. You go over them very quickly. They don't stay. But this one is the issue of money is intimate and deeply personal. So it affects your entire system 100%.
Even your physical health.
You feel worthless. You feel, and for me, the reason I speak about this passionately is I've made those mistakes. Many of them. I am what you would call a veteran
Of these errors.
Of all these errors, errors of judgment.
Yes.
I am a veteran. I have wounds all over.
You have scars on your back as you
Exactly. So I do not want other people, Ugandans, to fall back into this. The younger people we have need not commit
the same mistakes we made.
For fellas like us, who
But
1986 found us in absolute scarcity, and then we were part of the generation that now is into abundance.
yes.
I would not like people to go through
What
that
we went
gap.
through.
Exactly.
So back to goals. How, just from practical advice, how do you take that journey towards goals?
Well, checking you is exactly, you've already given the example. You will say the goals are, first of all, short term, mid term, and long term. Let's start with the short term. The short term one is school fees.
Yes.
Is the expenses now and whatever.
Yes.
And whatever and so on. So these are short term goals. Because we are going into Christmas, but we are moving it. First of all, you are in now.
You are
After
here come.
Christmas, you are in now.
Not after.
We're
We're already in it now.
Yes. Now, you are a.
We actually started in September.
Absolutely. So you are is coming and school fees is coming in January.
Yes.
Immediately after Christmas.
Yes.
So short term, what is it? Then we have got also what we call mid-term goals. Now the mid-term goals are especially around how do we diversify our portfolio in the home.
In other words, how do we grow from where we are?
Who do we consult? How do we do that? Long term is the other question I ask you. The Robert Kabushenga at 80. That is now the long term. Now, those are goals. Let's go to R. R is the reality of your situation. The reality of your situation is what? Right now, you have one wife. Do you want to add one or two more? Or if you have got children out of wedlock,
What is the number you can manage?
Which schools should they go to?
And if you are 56 like me, should you be getting new children?
Exactly. Dating and so on. And preparing that in 4 years' time you'll be going to nursery to drop that kid. And that kid will give you some sleepless nights or you'll be crying. And you are 60. You are required to sleep 6 hours.
No, 8, not 6.
Yes, there you are. So, in terms of reality, is that what kind of friends do you have? Are they friends who are adding anything to you? Are they friends that are bringing intellectual capital to you, network capital to you? Are they sharing genius capital with you? Do they see more in you than you see in yourself? In other words, can you mentor? Who are the 3 closest friends of yours? You know, they say we are an average of the 5 people you associate with.
Yeah.
So, reality of your situation, what are you eating? Must you eat that? Because with your level of income, what are the bottles of wine and whiskey doing in your fridge? And so, and all the funny lies you are telling yourself. So, reality, are your friends helping you or bringing you down? Are you static or you are advancing in your investments? Are you in decline or in denial? Now, that's reality. And that requires experts. Do you have an insurance expert in your group? Do you have a banker in your group? Do you have a guy
An investment person.
doing investment analysis in your group? What do you read? What do you follow? Right now, we have over 20 platforms for learning.
What do you consume intellectually?
So that is the reality of the situation every day. Then the O are the options now. Now, a young couple, like you mentioned, options are very. How do we handle this? In my family, my wife a long time ago, when she saw the blunders I was making, she took away the responsibility over money. So even when we went into COVID or whatever, my wife was in charge, and she did excellently. And all my children, 4 of them are in medical. They have been through medical schools and so on. All the four, she was responsible for paying school fees for them. And I read why? The responsibility. So the options are actually in finding out what is technically feasible and also what is financially rewarding and also socially desirable.
So technically feasible,
Yes.
financially viable, and socially desirable.
Yeah, in the home. Because they are young couple.
Yes.
So what would work well for them? Yes, you need to party. You need to enjoy your life. Yes, that's okay. But the issue here is how many parties must you go to?
But
prove that
exactly, leave alone, I mean, that's at a much simpler level.
Yeah.
But compared to our time, it seems to me that in modern day, the peer pressure to demonstrate material success is higher, especially driven by the artificial lives that people live on technology and able to show, even if it's not true, people who, and then it goes even into, how you decide where your children should go to school. There is peer pressure, so and so's children are here. From a purely mature point of view, and with your experiences, what would you say to people who are under those kinds of pressures?
Under those kind of pressures is to go through their role model. Is when you have a wife who loves you and respects you, together you can create goals that can work for you.
Yes.
And you roll back the peer pressure. And the other thing is something they call it's called actually shock therapy. I remember my mom used to use that a lot. And I think even here we have used it. When I say the Robert Kapshengo of age 80, that is some kind of shock therapy.
Yes.
Shaking you into reality.
Yeah.
That exactly how will you look exactly at that age? How much help will you have? What will you be able? Will you still be able to conduct intelligent conversations? Will you still be invited to participate in some kind of intelligent discourse where you are offering thoughtful ideas and so on? So what kind of environment will you be in at age 80? Today people are living well into age 95.
Yeah.
Okay? And they still attend meetings.
Rupert Murdoch still owns
Buffett.
Warren Buffett, yes.
Chairman. So the issue is you define your own identity and the values that drive that identity, a new identity for your home. So when I come in as your uncle, you have peer pressure and so on. That's okay. There are wedding meetings and people are contributing and so you don't have to, especially if the money is not there, you don't have to, it's okay. You don't have to attend every party in order to prove that you are around. No, people forget. I remember when we were younger, I would think that people are watching my shoes to see the shoes I'm wearing. You go to a party and nobody has even looked at your watch. Nobody has cared.
Or even looked at you.
Yes, absolutely. And you have to tell people that you have just bought a Maserati. But nobody cared what you packed out there. So you need
How
to
you
explain
came and
to
how you left.
Absolutely. Nobody. And when we grow older and so nobody even visits your house. For you to show off the swimming pool that is on the second floor or 10th floor, whatever. No, nobody cares. So we need to remember that we are on our road. We define our identity, we define our brand values, we define our future.
I want to push that thing a little further.
Yes.
Again, we touched it in the beginning, but now a lot of people define their identity with the work that they do or the jobs that they have
Yes,
at a
yes.
particular time. Is that wise?
Absolutely not. Absolutely not. We work and serve in these positions to build and grow our network, but mainly to serve and make other people dream more, do more, have more. That's the definition of a leader.
Yes.
A leader is someone who is able to inspire someone to dream more, to think more, to do more, to have more. And so that's what we do. So most of our jobs are into leadership, but to serve others.
Yes.
If serving others is beneath you, then leadership is above you. If serving others is beneath you,
Leadership is above you.
Yes. You can never get to leadership.
How can I exercise, what opportunities would I have to exercise leadership? Because people think leadership is a position, and if I'm not in a position, then I can't exercise leadership.
No. I will give you an example. This very platform where we are talking now, it's called Rebranding. You are a well-known media personality. Your job was to inform people, to inspire them, to get them interested and inform them. Right now, you have this platform. You are still informing in a different way. That's called rebranding and repurposing your life. So what you are still serving people. There are guys out there who are listening to us who have no idea of the grow model, who have no idea what must happen during this holiday season and the next quarter of the year. This talk now is changing the conversation in homes in much the same way as the editor-in-chief of New Vision, as you were, informing, involving people, inspiring them, you're still doing the same in another way. And if anything, this one, in my opinion, has greater impact. It has greater impact. When people come to listen because of who you are, not what
I am,
what position you
held.
whatever. Yeah, they listen to you because of that. So, in terms of the options, right now you are giving people and young couples options.
So finally, again, we go back to the beginning.
Sorry, the W in growth.
Oh, yes, we didn't finish it.
The will to go forward.
Exactly.
And that talks about only one thing. The discipline to go forward is hinged in a little quotation that doubt increases with inaction. When you doubt yourself, this is the will to go forward. If you doubt yourself, that doubt will increase and deepen when you don't take action.
Exactly.
So right now you have to take action.
Yes.
Then there's something, clarity of where you are going, what you are achieving.
Yes.
That one reveals itself when there's momentum in the conversation.
And the momentum is driven by action.
Exactly. And then finally, growth is registered through progress. Growth is registered through progress. When you're making progress, you're able to measure, share feedback with your spouse.
And to make progress, you have to have momentum. To have momentum, you have to act.
Absolutely. Yes.
I mean,
So
just
that's
that's a story. I mean, just to let you know a story, sometime back, many years ago, I got involved in some form of military training.
Yes.
And I will never forget one of the lessons our instructor told us, that in the military, in war when we are fighting, there's no room for hesitation. If you hesitate, the enemy will shoot you. So equally what you're saying is, if you allow doubt to set in, they will
manage 2025. You can. You can.
Mr. Peter Kimbowa, thank you very much for the time you have given us. And allow me to say this, that I have been invited many times to give these kinds of talks. And ultimately, they always ask me this one question that they say, how are we going to invest and grow? And I tell them, I am the wrong person. How do you prepare for retirement? And I tell them I'm the wrong person. Say, go to NSSF and your bankers, they'll tell you. But now allow me to say this to people listening, that please, maybe you should stop inviting me and invite PK.
Very humble.
Yeah.
Very
But
humble.
what would be your last word to people who are listening?
My last word to people who are listening, and I know people have different views of a man called Machiavelli, but Machiavelli said that the greatest tragedy of mankind is that circumstances around him change, but man does not change.
Exactly.
So we need change to be our star. We need change.
Thank you very much. Thank you for the time you have spent with us.